Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's session titled Best Ways to Finance Your Business. This webinar is brought to you by Alpher. My name is Deborah Ojengbede, and it's my pleasure to moderate the session tonight. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce our speakers this evening, Nana Jacob Ogogo and Ayokunumi Abraham. Ayokunumi is the head of the SME products team at Union Bank. His experience over 12 years covers various roles in corporate, commercial, and SME banking. Ayokunumi has a deep understanding of the needs of SMEs and knows how to prefer solutions to these needs. He has successfully worked with numerous businesses to select funding opportunities that suit their needs. Nana is the head of Alpher at Union Bank. She's a consummate banking professional with over 17 years experience in this industry and has thrived in roles ranging from banking operations, customer service, commercial and private banking, to culminate in a lead role in women empowerment and banking. By virtue of her experience both within and outside the bank, she has garnered experience in building, scaling, and impacting female entrepreneurs. So without further ado, I'd like to invite our speakers, Nena and Ayokunumi, to start the session. They'll be talking to us about best ways to finance a business. Please feel free to post your questions while the session is going on. If you have any questions for the speakers, kindly use the Q&A button on your Zoom live screen. Questions will be answered after the session. Also, this session is being recorded and will be available for view after the webinar. Thank you. Ayokunumi, Nena, over to you.
Thank you very much, Davy. Good evening, everybody.
Hello, everyone. Good evening.
So we want to welcome you to the webinar today. The webinar is sponsored by Alpher from Union Bank. Now, I'm sure a lot of you will be wondering exactly what Alpher is if you haven't already heard about it. And I'll just do a brief introduction. Alpher is Union Bank's proposition for women, and we enable success and empower women across Nigeria. So whatever segment you are in, so far as you're a woman, you can join the Alpha community. We're going to go right into the session, but before we do that, we want to talk about the objectives. So what are the things that we want you to get at the end of this session? Now, by the end of this session, we want a session where you should be able to determine whether your business actually does require financing. You should also be able to understand the different options available and which one fits your business best. We also would like that you have a clear idea of how the Alpha proposition can best support your business. I like to say that these are the best of times to be a woman in business. It's one of my, let me call it pet phrases. Why do I say that? Because of the Sustainable Development Goals, and in particular Goal 5, which is gender equality and empowerment for all women and girls. The world has woken up to the part that we women play in, well, in a lot of things, and for this instance, in economics, global economics, right? So we find that a lot of organizations and governments are now, sort of deliberately putting things in place to empower and encourage women. Studies have shown that there is about 180 years gap in the economic parity between male and female. So it's not that by doing all of this, all of a sudden, there'll be a level playing ground. But the important thing is to do as much as possible as everybody can. So that's what Alpha is doing as well. We acknowledge that the entrepreneur's road is a very hard one. And as a female entrepreneur, it's doubly hard because you have to sort of do the work-life family balance. And that's also one of the reasons why Alpha has been brought on board. We're going to talk about the economic climate, and we're talking about this globally and locally. So we all know what's happening now. We know the COVID-19 situation. We know about the slump in oil prices. What this has done is to bring about, we talk about increased competition, right? So right now, first of all, because of the world is a global village, so it's much easier now for people to just go into business. Formerly, going into business and becoming an entrepreneur and SME was, it was sort of like a big deal. But these days, you find that 50% of women are going into small and medium companies, right? And so you find that the competition out there has become much fiercer. Now, the economy is also putting a pressure on profits. So as little as 3-4 months back, if you had 1 million naira, that would have been how much in dollars? With what the dollar is right now, the last time I checked is about 450 something, right? Pounds was 550 something. So what that means is that the power of your money has really shrunk. So that also goes into reduced liquidity and lack of capital. Because what that means is that the disposable income you have is much less. So all these are the things that, and while we know that this affects both male and female businesses, we also still come back to the fact that as women, it affects women a bit more differently in the sense of all the other things that they have to also sort of figure out. Now, because we're your bankers, okay, we apart from giving facilities, so that's like financing your business, one of the things we like to do is also add value. So before we talk about financing, we want to talk about the fact that before you go take that step, so go further into funding, looking for funding, you need to ask yourself a couple of questions about your business. The first one we want to talk about is, what stage is your business in? Businesses have different stages, right? So for example, if you're a startup, as a startup, you wouldn't want to think of taking a loan at that moment, because when you are starting a business, some things are a bit uncertain. If supposing you had started a business in February, just before all this started, and you took a loan from anywhere, right? Whether it's friends or family, whether it's your bank, you took a loan to start that business. It wasn't your savings you used. You can imagine, and let's say your business was not, I like to say, COVID compatible. So businesses that are not COVID compatible are those that you cannot operate digitally, right? You would have been in a lot of trouble by now. So what stage is that business? To start a business, it's not advisable to take a loan. Now, if your business is mature and you can take a loan, that's fine. There's also the declining stage. When a business is declining, it's also not a good place to take a loan, because what that means is that you've matured, you've reached your peak, and the business is coming down. So you may want to start thinking about alternative sources. So do you want to deviate or divert into another, another product or service? Those are the things you should think about at that time. The second thing we want to think about is the cash flow. Have you done a proper audit on your business? Sometimes it's really about cash management. So you may not need to take a loan. The fact that your business looks like there's not much liquidity doesn't necessarily mean that funding is the next thing. So if you look at your books, understand your cash flow, and that's extremely crucial for businesses. What do you have coming in? What's your timing? What's your cycle like? What's your inventory level? Are you stocking more than you should? Are you stocking less than you should? If you have a good idea of what your inventory level should be, then that means that every point in time you should have just enough inventory in your business, right? Also, do you pay your suppliers like maybe you pay them immediately they supply, which means that you're giving out your funds immediately. Meanwhile, you're giving credit to the people that you sell to. So what that means is you're actually extending, sort of like borrowing money to the people that buy from you, your customers, but you're not getting that same credit from your suppliers, right? So these are some of the things that you need to look into. Sometimes just by restructuring your cash flow, understanding it well, you find out that you have a much better cash flow and liquidity. Next thing you need to talk about is, if you don't take this loan, what's going to happen to your business? Is anything critical going to happen, which dovetails into the timing? So is this the right time to take a loan? Assuming every other thing is in place, you've checked your cash flow, your business is mature, you're ready for a loan. Is this the right time to take it? What happens if you don't take it at this time? The last thing I'm going to talk about is, do you really need the amount they're requesting for? Because sometimes you've done your figures, you've done your calculations, and let's say you want to take a loan of 20 million. And then all of a sudden you think, okay, but maybe that there may be some miscellaneous things, and let me just add another 1 million or an extra 5 million, so just to be on the safe side. That's not really how to think about financing. So you know exactly how much you need for exactly what you want to do, and that's the amount you should be thinking of taking. Having said that, we're going to go straight into the sources of funding. If you see the 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth one there is bank loans. That's like the major source of funding. And my colleague Ayokunmi is going to take that portion. So I'm just going to talk about the other 5, which is investors. So you have investors that sometimes, you know, you can get to invest in your business. We have we call them VCs, and you have angel investors, venture capitalists, and they're 2 different things. So for angel investors, right, they're people that actually just invest in your business. So you sort of like pitch your business to them, and then they invest. They don't really require much, but there's always like an exit plan. For the venture capitalists, they're going to ask for a portion of your business. So you're going to have to seed some part of your business to them before, you know, you can get access to that money. It's important to note that even though this probably sounds like a very sweet alternative, it's important to know, one, they're few and far between. So you don't have a lot of this, especially here in Nigeria. That's on one hand. Secondly, it's a fiercely competitive market because a lot of people also want to go down that route, and there are not as many available out there. The next thing we talk about is grants. That's always a source of joy for a lot of businesses, because for grants, you don't have to pay it back. So it's like free money. People like to call it free money, right? There are some sort of criteria, you know, around taking those grants, and grants come in different ways and for different industries. So the criteria is different for every single one of them. What I would say is you could actually do a lot of research on the internet, right? There are quite a number available for women in this dispensation, which is also why I say it's one of the best times to be a woman, because formerly these things were not available to us. The next one I'm going to talk about is the advanced trade credits and the basic trade credit, because they're almost the same thing. So even though we really don't consider this as funding as business people, it is a form of funding. So this is where you have suppliers and you have arrangements with your suppliers. So you don't have to pay immediately you take your goods, right? So you ask them for maybe like 2 weeks, 1 month, and then you pay them. Sometimes you pay them when the goods have been sold. You know, sometimes the goods don't have been sold, but this, you've gotten some inflows before you pay them. So that's actually a source of funding. I know our economy is actually still going to speak to that. Then we talk about crowdfunding. So we know about crowdfunding. I don't know if we know that it's actually also a source of funding for businesses. There are quite a number of online platforms so the platforms have already been built, and you can actually do this digitally. You sign on to these platforms, and then, you know, you put your project on there, and sometimes it succeeds, sometimes it doesn't. You have your family and friends, and then when we talk about another source of income, what we're really talking about is, so you have your main business. Have you ever thought of having another business which would give you like passive income? So you don't have to be present, you don't have to put in a lot of effort. It could be like an online shop. There's a lot of e-commerce these days, you know, so like an online shop, but it just gives you passive income, and you can actually use that income to also fund your business. We're going to tie all this into the Alpher proposition, because even though we're talking about these alternatives, sometimes it's really confusing knowing which one is best for your business. It's also a bit difficult to sort of discover also places where this funding is available, and that's where, as Alpher and your bankers, be coming. So I'm going to hand over to my colleague Economy now to take the loans. Thank you. Ayo.
Thank you very much, Nana. Good evening, everyone, once again. So as a banker, one of the critical factors that I would look at when I want to lend you money is to know about the person or the people behind the business. Because ultimately, the person who is going to put the money to use in the business is you, the business owner. And that is what this is talking about, that you are the one who will decide how the funding will be utilized. And there are a number of critical factors to look at, you know, on the back of to assess the person or the people behind the business. So we're going to be looking at 4 of them in this meeting. One is the competence of the business owner. 2 is the ability to administer resources. 3 is the character of the person. 4 is the discipline. that the person is able to employ in the business. So you see, now for competence, the question that I would ask you, or I will ask myself, is I need to figure out and find a way to confirm that the business owner can deliver with excellence the product or the service that the business is established for. Two, I'm going to be checking if this person, based on what I see in the behavior of accounts, the behavior of the financials, I'm going to be looking at, and then when we engage, in conversations and I need some clarity around how the business runs, I'm going to be asking questions to determine how efficient the management of the business is. Three, character. One of the, if I would say, credit 101, of lending is character. And there are 5 C's of credit, and topping that list is character, because the person who has capacity to repay a loan but doesn't have character will not pay a loan. Just like a person who has character but doesn't have capacity will not be able to pay a loan. But at least you know that there is a willingness to repay. And the person, as soon as he's able to get alternative source of funding, would likely repay. So character is a critical factor, and this can be checked. There are various ways that these are checked. There are various ways that lenders, investors, sometimes people who give grants, there are various ways by which they check this. So you have to be known to be consistent in the way you keep your promises. And one of the simple ways to do that is just to engage with your suppliers. Because when you're doing, when you're putting together your request for your funding, one of the things you would provide is some details about your suppliers. Then discipline. Discipline speaks to how committed you are to playing by the rules, how committed you are to your strategy. Now, commitment to strategy can be verified by your commitment to your policies and processes. For every business, policies and processes are identified as being, certain policies and processes are identified to help and enable, to help deliver the purpose of the business. And from time to time, there will be the temptation to to just flout the rules, if I can put it that way. But your discipline and your commitment to your policies and processes are very important, because that is how you ensure consistent delivery of your of the excellence of the goods and services that you are supposed to be committed to. So next, we're going to be looking at when you're considering loans, where do you go, right? And then also, what is the place for the loan purpose? The places you can go to, just like Nena mentioned earlier when she was talking about managing your cash flows: supplier credits, buyer prepayment, family and friends. Now, these 3 rely, a lot on the character of the business owner, because it is a lot of it is based on, even though it's a business relationship, it is also a relationship because of established trends over time. So it's important that we take time to ensure that we deliver credibility as we do conduct businesses with people. So, for example, if I have an engagement wherein I need to make a payment to a supplier while I am waiting for a payment from the buyer, either because I have not delivered my goods or because I have delivered and the terms of payment is that the buyer will pay later. One of the ways to ensure that I manage my liquidity properly is to negotiate a payment terms with the supplier that enables me to pay the supplier after I've been paid by the buyer. So that way you are able to manage your cash flows and the need for funding that will cost you additional, that will put additional pain on your profit, would reduce. There are various intervention loans by the CBN, the BOI, and the good thing about these loans is that a lot of them are single digits. Basically, they are cheaper loans than the markets have to offer. We have commercial banking loans like we have in Union Bank, and we're going to come to some of the common types in the next slide. And then also we can approach, the market also has fintechs. We have microfinance banks as well, playing in the market. So what will determine who to go to, is a function of where you are in your business. Sometimes urgency, sometimes the need to deliver, can come before profit is required and all of that. So, where to go is a function of where you are. Now, one of the things that must be clear when we are seeking funding is the purpose of the purpose that the funding will achieve. It's important that we are able to describe the purpose of the loan. In this particular instance, of the loan that we want to take. And there are two broad categories. One is working capital, the other is capital expenditure. So working capital financing basically is funding that we need to run our day-to-day operations. So if you are a trader, you need funding to stock so that you can sell. If you are an importer, you need documented trade, so letters of credit, bills for collection. Sometimes your supplier offshore may demand that you pay via telegraphic transfer, i.e. just wire money to them offshore. So that isn't a loan. That is money that you have that you just pay to the supplier. Sometimes it's bonds and guarantees. So people who are into contracting typically are the ones who do a lot of bonds and guarantees, so that they will be able to either access funds from the contract employer, or so that they will be able to gain commitment from the contract employer before they move on to do the business. Now, capital expenditure is funding that you require for expansion. You want to buy equipment, you want to open a new outlet so that your business can grow. So it's funding that enhances growth, that enhances expansion. It can also be used for repairs of equipment, of your building, of your site of operation and all of that, but it doesn't directly go into your day-to-day operations. That's why it's called capital expenditure. So now we're going to be looking at the different types, the different common types of financing that you can get from a bank, and the purpose and the businesses that this financing products, are typically useful for. Overdraft. Now, an overdraft is a type of financing that allows a cash-rich business whose need for cash can be very spontaneous. So someone who is a recharge card seller, somebody who trades foodstuff, a supermarket, sometimes you just have a need for fund because your supplier is doing a promo, and if you're able to cash in on the promo, you get reduced price. Sometimes you get other benefits, and you're able to take advantage. So, an overdraft is good for you. Cash rich with daily or almost daily cash flows coming in. Now, short-term loan is like an overdraft. However, it is more for businesses whose need for cash is not that spontaneous, right? So they can be traders, they can be manufacturers, they can be professional companies, but it is that we can see an established pattern in your account that allows us to be able to say, you know what, rather than give you an overdraft, we would give you a short-term loan so that a short-term loan is better controlled. If there is an issue on the loan repayment, you can easily, the banker can easily know and engage the customer and then discuss, ways out to manage the situation and even make it easy for the customer to be able to deal with the issue. So then contract financing. Now, contract financing is for people who are involved in local purchase order or, sometimes long contracts for engineering purposes or for construction purposes, and then people who also require invoice discounting. Now, local purchase order financing is you have a contract, you need money to execute, right? Invoice discounting is that you have a contract, you have executed, you need funding to move on to the next contract while you await payment for the last contract. So that way the bank advances you money, then the payment you're expecting from the last contract is what you will use to repay that loan. Documentary trade, letters of credit and bills for collection. Now, this is for importers of goods, of physical goods, which can be raw materials or finished goods. This, helps to facilitate the international trade. Like I said, letters of credit are basically guarantees, right? Guarantees given by the bank on behalf of its customer to a third party in another country, saying to the third party, my customer has approached me, he has told me of the engagement both of you have had, and if you deliver based on the terms of engagement documented in this guarantee, then I will pay, the bank will pay. That's what letters of credit is. Bills for collection is also supports, it's also used to facilitate international trade. But this usually happens when the buyer, the local buyer, the importer, has a good relationship with the international supplier, that is the exporter. And then the supplier that is in the other country is willing to give supplier credit, is willing to ship goods to the our customer in Nigeria and then await payment at a later date. There is no guarantee involved by the bank. The bank is just simply helping the customer and the supplier to move documents from one country to another, and then the exchange signatures, because they trust one another. Bonds and guarantees. These also, a lot of time, just like contract financing, is used to support customers who are into contracting. Now, the way it works is that, and there are different types, right? Parties to contract where a guarantee is required by one party for the exchange of value from the other. So examples are APGs. APGs are advanced payment guarantees. An advanced payment guarantee is a guarantee issued by Union Bank to a third party. The third party is a contract employer, the person who is issuing out the contract. Union Bank is issuing that guarantee on behalf of our customer, that is you, saying to the third party that release advance some money to this customer because of this contract that both of you have. Advance it to him. If he doesn't deliver on the contract, then the bank will return the money to you. That is an advance payment guarantee. A bank guarantee, so you see, advance payment guarantee is working for the contract employer, our customer. The bank guarantee is working for the contract employer. So the way it works, is that our customer asks us to issue a bank guarantee to the contract employer, our customer in this case, I beg your pardon, our customer in this case is so our customer requests that we issue a bank guarantee to the contractor, right? Now, the contract employer in the case of a bank guarantee is the customer of the bank. He wants the contract employer, that is not our customer in this case, to deliver on a job, but he doesn't want to pay him yet. So the contract employer, that is our customer in the case of the bank guarantee, requests Union Bank to issue a bank guarantee in favor of the contractor so that the contractor can go and use his money to do the job and then get paid later. So that's the difference between APGs and bank guarantees. We will also have performance bonds. We also have retention bonds. Performance bonds also are for contracts. So basically saying that issue a performance bond, contract in this is, again, just like the APG, contractor, my customer, asked me to issue a performance bond to the contract employer, saying to him that I will perform on this job. If I don't perform, then the bank will be liable to pay a sum. That is the charge that the performance bond is worth. And the list goes on. Then term loans, just like I mentioned in the previous slide, for this, all the options I have mentioned earlier, the product options I've talked about prior, they are all for working capital, right? Term loans are either medium term or long term. Medium term because they are more than 1 year, long term because they are 3, 4, maybe 7 years, and above. So these are for business expansion purposes. You want to expand your production line, you want to open a new outlet, you want to buy a rice mill, you want to buy an equipment that will enhance the production of your output. I mean, your product that you eventually sell to the customer. So these are the various product types, common product types. There are more complex ones, but there is no there is no need to. We don't have to talk about them at this forum. So Nena, over to you.
Thank you so much, Akunumi. I hope your heads are not spinning, because if I wasn't a banker, honestly, I think I'll be like, okay, so what next? And well, the good news is, what next? Yeah. So basically, you would decide which option works best for you, right? When we say you may decide to go with a hybrid. So a hybrid is actually simply like a mix. So depending on what it is you want the funds for, depending on how much it is, you may actually decide to say, okay, depending on what you want it for, should I take, do maybe friends and family for this portion? Then maybe you want to buy equipment. You say, let me take a lease facility from the bank, or, just sort of combine. At the same time, you don't have to combine. You can just go for any one of the various options that we've just put. Like we said, the bank loan is actually the loans from the bank are actually one of the most major sources of funding, really, at least here in Nigeria, that we have. But the important thing at the end of the day is whatever option that you're going to take, it's important that you have a comprehensive understanding of whatever it is you're getting into. Because whether it's a loan or a grant or the venture or an investor, you're going to have to, there's no free lunch. You're going to have to give up something, some part of your business. Either it's the interest rate, or it's maybe some form of authorization or shares in your company. You're going to give up something. So it's important that you take the right decision. Having said that, I think it's also important for us to emphasize that is why, as bankers, we are here. And that's why we did this on the back of Alpher. So we're not giving you these options and then leaving you high and dry, okay? as we're trained relationship managers, we're trained bankers, we're professionals. So if you do come in and you have access to these various options, one of our duties is to actually walk you through, understand your business, understand exactly what it is you're doing, and then advise you on the best possible option. And that's what we're here to do. So I'm going to play a short video, and this is simply to introduce you to what the Alpher proposition really is. I sort of introduced it in the beginning, but I didn't dwell on it. Like I said, it's Union Bank's proposition for women in Nigeria, okay? So this clip is just going to take you through the, let me call it pillars that we have, and then we'll take it from there. So.
Discounted healthcare packages. Working with various providers, we bring quality healthcare to you at affordable rates. Personal and professional development. Alpher offers scholarships and training covering business, entrepreneurship, career, and personal development. Access to finance. With Alpher, you have access to lower interest rates on cash flow loans with no collateral requirements. Savings and investments. We have tailored savings and investment plans to grow your wealth. Business and lifestyle discounts. Enjoy exciting discounts from our lifestyle partners, hotels, supermarkets, and spas. We've also negotiated steep discounts on professional services, including HR, tax, legal, business, and financial planning. Mentorship and coaching. Because we believe in you and are committed to enabling your success, we also provide access to industry leaders, peer-to-peer learning, and live coaching sessions. Alpher by Union Bank, enabling success for women.
Thank you. I hope did we all hear that? Was it clear? Ayo, was it clear?
Yes, it was.
It was. Okay. Okay, so that's Alpher by Union Bank. Like we said, it's our platform to enable success for the Nigerian woman. And we talked about in whatever segment of society that you're in. So what this slide speaks to is who can join the Alpher community, right? Because that's a question that most of you are probably asking. Now, the first one we'll talk about is the Alpher female. So far as you're a female, Alpher, please, female is female. We're not doing you were born as a male, but you're now female, with all due respect. These are females. You can join the Alpher community, okay? In fact, we welcome you into the Alpher community. Now, the next set is businesses. So we speak to three types of businesses. We talk about the woman-owned business. That's pretty straightforward. That's a business that is owned outright by women. So you're a woman, you have a business name, you have a limited liability company, you are welcome to the Alpher community. The second category is the woman-led business. So this is a bit complicated in the sense that it's not a woman that actually owns the company. So if you look at the CAC documents, you may not see a woman's name as a director. It's not going to be a woman that has the highest number of shareholding, the highest shareholding. However, you have women in positions of authority in the C-suite. So that's maybe like the CEO or the CFO or the COO. So there's a woman in a position of authority. Also, if it's like a big company, a commercial organization or a corporate organization, then you have 30% of the board being women. These types of organizations are also part of the Alpher community. The third one is the woman supporting organization, and that's a very interesting one because what that speaks to is an organization that has about 50% of the workforce as women, right? Or you have about 30% of your suppliers, both direct and indirect suppliers, being women. Or you have products and services that are specifically for women. So that's like a makeup company. If there was a makeup company, what other type of company? that only women use the services, then we would consider that company to be an Alpha organization. Now, why I said this is actually pretty interesting is because you find that, within our immediate environment, our local environment, most of the organizations that speak to female empowerment really just focus on the woman. But what we realized is that if you support the woman and you support the woman-owned business, okay, there are other organizations that also support women, so indirectly or directly, which speaks to the woman-led or the woman-supporting business. So the fact that we support them also means that we're extending our support to the women that they support, which is why Union Bank actually went down this road. Now, this slide is, so we spoke about the Alpha community. What that is we're having this training online now, this webinar, right? If not for the COVID situation, we'd probably be having it in a sort of like a classroom environment. But what that means is that we would not be able to reach as many women as possible. So what did we do? We went online. We have an online hub where we have trainings that are free of charge for our female customers and the general public, right? We have global opportunities. So I'm going to relate this to everything we've spoken about. I couldn't spoke about different kinds of loans you can take for your businesses. Now, some of us may be thinking that, well, that's fine, but that's very generic. A lot of banks or most banks offer the same products. The beautiful thing about this is that when you join the Alpha community in Union Bank, as an Alpha customer, you actually get very highly discounted interest rates, right? So for all the products that our economy spoke to, all our loan products, if you open an account with Union Bank and you wanted to take any one of these facilities, you wouldn't be taking it at the normal rates. We have discounts of over 10% on some of our loans for our Alpha customers. That's on one hand. I'm not too sure how many of you heard about, because what we do is sometimes it's pretty difficult for banks to give out loans at lower interest rates. And the reason is very simple. The monies that we have, and I'm just going to speak like a layman, okay? So the monies in the banks are people's monies, right? So they're your money, they're customers' monies. You put your monies in fixed deposits, the banks offer you interest rates, then you talk about all the things that CBN takes. So there's CRR, there's all sorts of things that's, percentages that are placed to lend on that money. What we call it in the bank is the cost of funds, right? So cost of funds are very high. It'll be very difficult for banks to give out interest rates, customers' money at very low interest rates. So we partnered with international organizations, and one of the things we did, like sometime, I think about in January or February, our CEO spoke about 200 million that we got from OPIC funds, and about 40% of that money is going towards women, female SMEs, corporates, and commercials. So we do have quite a lot of funds to loan out to women. And that's also why we can afford to do this at lower interest rates. Now, some of you may say, okay, so interest rates are low, but that doesn't mean that the money is accessible, because if you watch the video, you would see that one of the things we said is access to funds. And having low interest rates doesn't always mean access, because sometimes, you come to a bank, you want to take a loan, the interest rate is very favorable, but then you don't have collateral, you don't have the necessary requirements. So Union Bank, with Alpha, has a loan facility that you can take for up to 12 months. So that's 1 year, right? Interest rate is about 1.2% per month, or slightly less depending on your credit score, because in Union Bank, we use credit scores. Not everybody will get the same interest rate, right? So depending on your credit score, you can get between 1 to 1.3% interest rate, and it's completely without collateral. One of the beautiful things about it as well is you only have to have operated an account with us for up to 1 month. So it's not 3 months, it's not 6 months. Open an account, run it for 1 month, and then you can have access to that loan. Now, it is based on your cash flow. So what that means is the amount you can get as a loan will be based on your turnover. So if you've banked with us for 1 month, what that means is we'll use your previous statement from another bank or from other banks. So that's what we call access to finance. And that speaks to the loan portion that my colleague Economy spoke to. Now, if you when we go back to some of the other things I spoke to as well, where Alpha does come in is when we sit down with you and we sort of like profile your business, right? And we agree on what sort of financing is relevant for your organization. If you don't need to take a loan, if there are other things that you need to do, then we actually have access to international organizations. We partner with international organizations, right? So we have access to some grants depending on what segments of the industry that you're in. We have access to also some angel investors, so these are also things depending on that we can help you with in the Alpha community. The other thing I would have spoken to is sometimes after assessing your business, you find out that you actually don't need a loan, like we spoke to earlier. In which case, the Alpha community is also excellent for you, because one of the things we do, so this is a webinar, right? And we do a lot of this. Like I said, on the Alpha Hub, you also have access to different forms of trainings, right? And then we have a network. So one of the things we talked about was networking as well, because that's one of the things that we have also found out is important for women's businesses. Before we floated the Alpha proposition and we made it public, we didn't just sit down and say, oh, okay, so what do we think women would like? We actually went out to women like you, and we asked, what are the things that would make a difference or an impact as an organization and as an individual? So some of the things we heard were access to health. Healthcare is expensive in Nigeria, right? So we that speaks to our health proposition, where we partnered with different HMOs. And now you can have access to healthcare for as low as 14,000 Naira per annum. We have like 4 different plans, and all these on our website. So if you go on there, that's the Alpha Hub, right? alphawoman.com, you're going to see all our plans. So the point is, even if you don't need a loan, there are other things that the Alpha community can actually assist you with. One of the things we also found out is that for women's businesses, okay, mentorship is very, very, very key. And the beautiful thing is that we find out that more and more women are, we're just sort of like paying forward. So you find a lot of women in Nigeria and outside the country ready to sort of like be their sisters' keepers, right? So we have mentorship programs. There's one that has been on the internet for some time. It went live, I think it was last week. And there's another one coming up in July, right? And we intend to mentor quite a number of our customers. So we're partnering with some organizations like Whisker and Wendy's, because mentorship is actually key for success. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Now, because we don't have much time, I'm not going to, talk too much more about the Alpha Hub. It's on there, and if you go on and sign in, you can actually see much more of the benefits that we have to offer. I think there are lots of questions coming, so I'm just going to hand over to my colleague Davy to take it from there and say thank you once again to everybody. Is there any other thing you wanted to add?
Yeah, just to say thank you. Thank you to Alpha.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ayokunumi. Thank you, Nena. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. They were highly insightful. I'm particularly excited about the amazing benefits that Alpha has to offer and how Alpha is here to educate and support women in business. Thank you, Nena. Thank you, Ayokunumi. Thank you. I could see the comments and questions rolling in during your presentations. So we'll just go straight to the Q&A session. Please keep your questions coming. The speakers will answer as many questions as they can. Also, please look out for the poll questions that will be popping up on your screens shortly. We would love to have your feedback. Please select your answers by clicking the boxes on your screen. Okay, let's get to the questions. The first question here, I'll just direct to the speakers. You can choose who would answer the question. The first question is, if I apply for a loan today, how long would it take to receive the loan?
Okay, so
let me take that. The question cannot be answered straight away like that, because application for loan, triggers a number of inquiries. And it is until these inquiries have been properly satisfied that we can now say, okay, from this point that you have met the requirement, it will be, say, so and so number of days. For our unsecured loans, we try to make sure that within 48 to 72 hours is all done, completed. For the loans that are secured, it's a function of a number of things, but from the point that all documents have been provided by the customer. So you have documents provided for approval, then you have documentation done post-approval towards disbursement. Between documentation and disbursement, all within between 24 to 72 hours max.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ayokonomi. I'll just run through the questions quickly. I can see a lot of questions. For questions that we might not be able to answer here, please, if you have any questions, send your questions to alpher@unionbankng.com. It's right there on the screen, alpher@unionbankng.com. If we're unable to answer your questions right here, please send your questions to the email. I'll go to the next question, and I think this is for Nenna. Are there specific businesses that Alpher can give loan to, and those that cannot get loans?
Okay, thank you for that, because I didn't speak to that. Now, depending on what sort of loan you want to take, Alpha would be able to give almost any industry. Now, there are a few, there are a few, should I say, industries or segments that as a bank, ethically, we do not give loans to. So, for example, if you wanted to buy guns, for example, we wouldn't finance you or something like that. So there are a few of those industries that ethically as a bank, we wouldn't go into, and those are the only ones that Alpha wouldn't go into as well. I hope I answered the question.
Okay, thank you, Nenna. Thank you. The next question, how long do I have to have an account with Union Bank before applying for a loan?
Traditionally 6 months. For the Alpha woman, 1 month.
Okay, thank you, Nenna. Next question, must I have an account with Union Bank before I can join Alpha Women?
So no, anybody can join the Alpha community. Anybody, it's open to everybody.
All right, thank you, Nenna. I am starting my business. Can I get a loan?
That one has put me on the spot. So if you go back to the slide that I spoke about, okay, so for a startup, it's not advisable to take a loan. That's one thing. Does not mean that we cannot do anything for you, because like I said, we also partner with different organizations. So it's possible, very, very possible that we may be able to guide you to get a grant. Now, if you're starting a business, but you have been doing other things, okay, so you have an already existing source of income, yes, you'd be able to get a loan. If the should I say leadership was the same in the two businesses that you're doing. But when you are taking a loan, you do need to show that you have a history. So previous capacity of being able to pay back, apart from the projections that you're giving us, right? So I hope that has spoken to the question. If you have an existing business, different from the one that you're just going into, yes, you can get a facility. If this is a completely new business, then we'll still be able to guide you and probably be able to, direct you towards some form of grant.
Okay, thank you, Nenna. The next question, does Alpha have a crowded fund program I can join?
So that's a crowdfunding. No, we do not have a crowdfunding. What we do have is information to crowdfunding platforms that you can actually apply to.
Okay, Nana. I need about 7 million naira to expand my business, but I do not currently bank with Union Bank. What do I need to do?
You need to open an account with it. Please go ahead.
Yeah, start banking with Union Bank and keep the conversation going. At some point, you will be able to have the access.
Okay, thank you. I think this question is for you as well, Ayokunumi. I'm a distributor for a wine production company. I like to expand my business by adding logistics operation to reduce my cost. What do I do? Did you get
I
the
would say,
question?
yeah, now I would say that we need to engage some more, because we need to understand the the line of business, the part of the wine business that the customer is into, before we will be able to answer some of the questions that he wants answered. But yes, the first thing to do would be to engage with us. Let us understand the business properly before we then go ahead to making decisions.
Okay, thank you. There's another question. What is required to open a business account for startup?
I can speak to that, so I should speak to that.
No, it's to walk to any of our branches and request to open an account. That opening an account, it doesn't matter if the business is a startup or not. In fact, the good thing that Union Bank has is that even for businesses that are not yet registered, we do open accounts. So yes, please walk to any of our nearest branches, express your interest in opening an account, and you'll be guided appropriately.
Okay, thank you, Ayokurumi. Thank you. Please keep filling out the poll questions appearing on your screen. I don't think we have any more questions. I'm trying to look through.
Davy, can I say one last thing?
Okay.
Okay, so
okay,
just to write on what Ayokunumi said. So we have what we call mom and pop. Now, mom and pop in Union Bank speaks to businesses that, and for the purposes of Alpha, that would be mom, speaks to businesses that are not registered. So traditionally, if you're not a registered business, you don't have a business name, it's actually pretty difficult to get a loan. But one of the things that we do in Union Bank is we give you loans, and you would still be able to get a loan as a mom account under the Alpha platform, still at a highly discounted rate. So I just wanted to speak to that.
Okay, thank you, Nana. So I think we've now come to the end of the Q&A session. We've now come to the end of the Q&A session. If you have any more questions, please send your questions to alpha@unionbankng.com. You can also sign up on the Alpha website, alphawoman.com. Thank you. To close the webinar, I would like to invite Nana Jacob Ogogo, the head of Alpha, to give closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Debbie. Thank you very much, Ayokunumi. Thank you very much, everybody on the webinar with us. I just want to say thank you very much for taking time out to attend with us today. We're going to be doing a lot more of this, so you're going to be seeing a lot more of us and hearing a lot from us. If you have any other questions, like Debbie said, please look at the screen. You have alpha@unionbankng.com, so you can send emails there. You also have the alphawoman.com that's the hub where you can register, and have access to some of this. Now, even though the Alpha Hub, the community is open to everybody, to all women, you may not be able to get some of the benefits unless you're a customer of Union Bank. For example, if you wanted a loan, you would have to be a customer of Union Bank. If you wanted access to the HMO facilities, you would have to be a customer of Union Bank. For the mentorship and training, you may not necessarily be a Union Bank customer, right? So just once again, thank you very much. I hope we're all keeping safe and observing social distancing. Yeah, and take care and have a lovely evening. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Nana. Thank you. Good night, everyone.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
Have a lovely evening.